NBN's tips to Gary Harley suggest the trifecta for race 3 should read Sunalong Lass to beat Spot the Rock and Investor, and for the legs of the daily double, try Torjoy in the first leg and Paris Pride in the second. Down south they race at Moonee Valley, and in the legs of the daily double, try Twining in the first leg, race 7, and Abstraction in the second leg, race 8. For the Moonee Valley trifecta, 1, 4 and 6, Twining to beat Thelma Josephine and Intent Gaze. Racing in Newcastle tomorrow is at Beaumont Park, and Nuggy coupled with Globetrotter should give you the daily double, while for your trifecta, 8, 1 and 5, Globetrotter to beat Like a Wolf and Helena. Pacing in our area tomorrow night is at Cessnock, and Gary Harley feels that 80s Boy and Moore Mill should fill the winner's circle in their respective races for the daily double, and Moore Mill, Gold Spring and Armedia should provide you with a trifecta at Cessnock.
More than 700 apprentices across New South Wales entered the 89 NSC Apprentice Safety Awards. In Region 2, a zone stretching from the Central Coast to the Queensland border, several hundred trainees went under the judge's eye, sitting for tests and being appraised for their attitude towards their work.
The aim of this one is to provide education of apprentices. It's best if people can be educated at a younger age as possible, and this is one of those things that we can do that in.
Today, at an awards ceremony at the Pasminco Metal Sulphide plant at Bullaroo, presentations were made to the 4 regional winners. Consolation awards went to Catherine Jones, a 4th-year electrical apprentice at the Hunter Water Board, Raymond Giles, a 4th-year apprentice carpenter with Oxley Electrical, and Glenn Smithers, a 1st-year electrical apprentice also at Oxley Electrical. The regional winner was 4th-year electrical apprentice Neil Woolbridge from Pasminco Sulphide. Lake Macquarie Mayor Ivan Welsh presented Neil with a cheque for $200.
Resuming at none for 9, Robbie Kerr and Peter Cantrell started the run chase in fine fashion, taking to an off-colour Holdsworth. But with the score on 24, Kerr played back to Holdsworth and was adjudged LBW for 12. It wasn't only the New South Wales players down ill, but umpire Ian Thomas left the field to be replaced by Newcastle Seth Somerville. Cantrell hammered Holdsworth to the boundary with a great on drive, but at the other end it was the Blues captain Jeff Lawson who got the next breakthrough, trapping Chris Mart in front with a score on 37. And all of a sudden the home state was in the match. The quickest optometrist in the land then grabbed the biggest prize of the day. Alan Border again caught in front of the Maroons and slumped to be 3 for 43. Queensland had questioned a couple of the earlier decisions by the umpire, but there was furor when skipper Greg Ritchie was given out, caught behind off the bowling of Mark Waugh for 7. Ritchie couldn't believe that he'd been dismissed and held his ground for quite a while. Matters worsened for Queensland as Glenn Trimble survived 2 balls, caught by Steve Waugh off Brother Mark, and the Northerners were in real strife at 5 for 54. Cantrell had been dogged in defence, but after lunch launched into a beautiful straight drive that rattled the pickets. Another full toss by Taylor was dispatched by Story for 4, and the Maroons were beginning to show some fight. But Taylor made the breakthrough, Story caught behind by Emery for 20, and the 6th wicket had fallen. 7 runs later, Cantrell was on his way back to the pavilion in the unluckiest of circumstances. From the bowling of Taylor, Cantrell hit a sweep shot right in the middle of the bat. It skied off the heel of Steve Small, and Wayne Holdsworth dived to take a super catch, and Cantrell was out for 30 with a score at 90. Craig McDermott wasn't going to muck about. The first ball from Taylor, one bounce into the fence for 4. Healy took 12 off one over from Mark Waugh with 2 cut shots and a hook, but in the next over Mark Waugh took a super catch as Healy got a top edge from Taylor, and Queensland were 8 for 107. Tazalar was the next to go, caught Mark Waugh bowled Taylor. Steve Waugh should have finished the match a little earlier, but dropped the simplest of outfield catches. But Henry Lawson cleaned up the innings, effecting a marvellous caught and bowled, and the Blues had grabbed an incredible outright win. It wasn't hard to tell if Greg Ritchie was upset or not over the umpiring and the result.
I'm not talking to any press. Go and talk to the Queensland.
Plea bargaining, Paul Whelan, Shadow Attorney General, answered that, as did Michael Yabsley. Mrs Hayward talked about the murder of her son. Michael Yabsley answered that. Dawn. It can be any general one, so
In my case particularly, and that's what...
because they are people perhaps with a story and potential. All right, is that it as far as media?
Do you think they could come into some sort of argument?
Well, I thought it's more or less knowledge and understanding of what they're experiencing and what they're going to go through.
The Garden City complex was busy with Christmas shopping, but on the car park above David Jones' one shopper must have felt terribly alone. Parking her Toyota Celica, she had noticed a man wandering around, but thought nothing of it and went about her business. As the woman got out of her car, she was approached by the man. He was brandishing a 20-centimetre knife and he told the woman he was going to steal her car. But the robber then forced the woman into the passenger seat of the Celica.
He then asked her if she had money, and she then handed him a sum of money which he had in her purse, and she was quite hysterical at this stage, and for fear of the way he was holding the knife at her, and he jumped from the car and ran off.
Hamilton detectives say it was a most unusual robbery, but have warned Christmas shoppers to be wary. Detectives have fingerprinted the car involved in today's attack and are calling for any witnesses at Garden City around 11:45 to come forward. The attacker is described as 183 centimetres tall, of scruffy appearance, with shoulder-length brown hair, wearing blue jeans and a dark jacket. Testing conditions at Salamander gave the student board sailors a good lesson in speed today. World student champion Warren Williams and Open Australian freestyle champion Robbie Goff made the most of a stiff sou'easter, their boards skimming across the bay at almost 40 kilometres an hour. Medical student Melanie Braund, last year's World Mistral champ, has been impressed by the number of sailors who have travelled from all over Australia to compete.
It's actually quite better than last year. A lot more competitors. Instead of having 7 universities, we've got like 14 here. And the number, we've got about 200 competitors, which is amazing. It was like a number that we usually have in the state, in the national titles.
The championships involve sailing in 5 different categories: slalom and triangle racing, tricks, a 6-hour marathon and wave jumping. While for some it's a casual week of fun, all competitors say that on the water, it's every student for themselves.
Glenn Campbell is no stranger to roads, having sung about them and driven on them around the world. But the Hunter's variety still came as a bit of a shock.
I said, they got some great roads in Australia if they ever get them finished. It seemed like every 10 miles or so they got to sign up, men working and so forth. I thought it was the group at first, men at work.
Glenn Campbell is to play at the Civic Theatre tonight. Part of his performance will include new material, which is seeing him soar into the number 7 with a bullet spot in the United States country charts.
Oh, she's gone, 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 gone. Crying won't bring her back. The more that I cry, the faster that plane flies, farther across the sky.
But fans around the world still can't hear enough of the songs which first threw Glenn Campbell into superstardom more than 20 years ago.
I've been walking these streets so long, singing some good old songs. I know every crack in the dirty sidewalks of Broadway.
As often as Glenn Campbell has sung that and other favourite songs, he says he never tires of them.
No, I really don't. Now, if I'd recorded something like The Twist or Oh, Darling, You Broke My Heart and I'm Gonna Break Your Jaw type of songs, which is the hardcore country, I think that I would probably tire of singing them. But no, Wichita Lineman and Rhinestone Cowboy, I love the philosophy of Rhinestone Cowboy because I like to look the people in the eye and say, there will be a load of compromising on the road to your horizon. So.
Been a load of compromising on the road to my horizon, but I want to be where
18-year-old Nicole has been dancing since she was 6 years old. It's her dream to be a professional ballet dancer, and her selection to compete in London against dancers from 54 other nations has given that dream new hope. Last year's gold medalist in the Genet Awards, also from Newcastle, Jane Finney, now performs with the Australian Ballet.
It's helped me, I guess, trying to follow in her footsteps.
Nicole leaves for London on Christmas Day for a week of competition. From there she has interviews organised with several European dance companies. It's an exciting period for the Cohiba teenager. Only 2 years ago, Nicole left school. She worked in a bank for 12 months, but since then has concentrated on her ballet 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. Nicole will perform with the Marie Walton Mahon Dance Academy at the Civic Theatre on Monday night. With Hunter youth unemployment running as high as up to 20%, young people were targeted today with a new government campaign. While the rock music was designed to draw the crowds, the new promotion is designed to offer hope for people out of work. Called The Guide, the scheme gives advice on finances, education and possible careers. Counsellors were at the concert offering personal advice in a casual atmosphere. The musical approach is a new idea, taking away the formality of the unemployment office.
Watson, aged 24, and Miller, 29, have been charged with assault against Raymond Douglas Cowley and assault occasioning actual bodily harm on Terence Keith O'Brien on July the 10th. They both made a brief appearance on the 25th of that month. The case had been adjourned until today, with both players granted unconditional bail. The court was told that Miller was unable to appear today because of an operation he'd had on November the 29th. A letter from his GP and another from an ear, nose and throat specialist were handed to Magistrate Kel Clark. The case against Miller and his Cronulla teammate Sean Watson was adjourned until March the 26th. Rebecca Skinner in Singleton for NBN News.
It's been 15 years since Craig Johnston walked through his old school, and it brought back some special memories.
People, school kids. It's where you met, it's where you played sport, it's where you learnt about life, it's where all the young girls were. In fact, I met my wife here.
Craig took the soccer world by storm, playing for English glamour side Liverpool and later topping his career with a goal in an FA Cup final. It was a dream come true for a cheeky young man who learnt his skill by kicking a tennis ball against a schoolyard wall. He told the students today they too should work towards a dream.
I'm realistic enough to say to these kids, well look, nothing special about me, I'm the same as you were at your age. I was prepared to work harder than my schoolmates. And there's a quadrangle there where they all play sport every day, all day long. And there was more talented kids on that quadrangle than me, but I was prepared to work harder.
Craig donated a photograph as proof that any goal can be achieved.
Charlie Horton from Lemon Tree Passage and Jim Ward representing Cohiba battled it out in the final after 62 competitors were eliminated over the 3 days of competition. Horton, wanting to establish an early lead, took the unusual tact of pushing the bowl wide and trying to form a jack guard. Jim Ward took the more direct approach and was just in front when rain interrupted play after 11 ends. After an hour the rain stopped and play resumed with Charlie Horton taking stock and running out eventual winner 31 shots to Jim Ward's 26.
Yesterday marked the birthday of the Civic Theatre, but at the last moment plans for a celebration were cancelled because of the close proximity to Christmas. But today Lord Mayor John McNaughton said more important plans for the building were underway.
Well, from all our investigations, we claim that it is the most important theatre of its kind on mainland Australia.
Already the council has earmarked $2 million for refurbishment, but these plans show that between $10 and $12 million are needed. The idea is to expand the foyer area to host small concerts and recitals, to install air-conditioned seats in the theatre, a large restaurant and bar area, and enable the theatre to be used from morning to night for a variety of entertainment. Electronics, lighting and acoustic work, plus an electronically extended stage and orchestra pit would add to the expense.
How the money will be raised will be by money from the council, from the sale of other assets perhaps, from current funding, but also from places like the Heritage Council, from state and federal government, who have a real interest in the refurbishing of historical buildings. And they've spent a fortune in Sydney on Sydney buildings. It's our turn now, and some of that money should be spent here.
Alderman McNaughton hopes it will not be long before the ideas become reality.
Well, I think it's going to be a 5-year program, but I would like to think that within the life of this council, that is within the next 2 years, we would make decisions about when it will be done.
Newcastle's licensing police are rarely seen by the public except in unusual instances like this raid on an alleged X-rated video operation in September. Up to 70% of their work is related to hotel inspections and paperwork, but that seems likely to change.
Licensing police will cease to exist as a specialist section. We will come under the scope and umbrella of the general duty police. However, my understanding is that we'll be released from certain areas of licensing which are seen as non-police functions, allowing us to concentrate fully on the breach and enforcement provisions of the Acts.
It's anticipated that General Duties Police will take on extra work such as checking underage drinkers, club memberships and licensing hours using infringement notices to speed up the normally cumbersome legal paperwork. Once police have had the extra training to take over licensing, it's expected that liquor outlets will come in for more attention.
I'd say that's a distinct possibility. As I say, I think that there would have to be additional training for General Duty Police, and in the short time it may be necessary for the fully trained and specialised police to be used as a specialist squad under the general duty umbrella in the short term anyway.
In the 1940s, the 3801 steam locomotive won the hearts of Novocastrians with its streamlined appearance and record-breaking speed. After more than 25 years of service, the loco was replaced in 1970 and then refitted in 1986 for tourism work out of Sydney. 2 years ago, apprentices from the Hunter Valley Training Company decided Newcastle needed a permanent record of this historic train, and hence the 3801 miniature style. With government and private support, the 1/10th size model was carefully and precisely pieced together.
Is it a toy?
No, it's not a toy. It's, well, for some people it's an obsession. That's a real thing, and I think the museum and the people of the Hunter will really enjoy.
Valued at around $27,000, the working model can run on compressed air or steam and is a prize acquisition for the museum. Bringing back memories of a different era, another gift to the city, a 40-tonne wool scourer. Donated by an Aberdeen tannery, the machine fleeced wool from the hide of sheep. According to the museum, the scourer, which was built at the turn of the century, is the only one of its type on display in Australia.
From the front view, this car looks like your average Ford Fairlane. But wait until it turns the next corner and you realise this car has been stretched nearly 1.5 metres to seat 6 people in absolute luxury. Elite Limousines is the brainchild of Paul Stevens, a Pommy who's made Newcastle his home.
I think it needs the service because it deserves the service.
With each car refitted completely, it's no surprise these limousines carry a price tag of more than $90,000 each to buy. The leather upholstery is hand-stitched and the windows tinted. Air conditioning is a standard feature. Of course, with the limousine you have the best of both worlds. For business, I'll be back in the newsroom in an hour. Or for pleasure.
Well, this vehicle, as we can see around us, has a number of appointments. It has a cellular telephone, an intercom system which has been built for elite limousines. It has a TV video system, a cocktail cabinet which has full crystal glass service. It has full leather upholstery right through the car, and it has a CD player, AM/FM radio.
At $65 an hour, the Elite Limousine is affordable luxury for special occasions like weddings and balls. But Paul sees a market in serving tourists, complete with interpreters, and the busy executive who needs to be in constant contact with his office. To that end, each car will be fitted with a mobile fax machine, some with a word processor. But don't worry if you can't justify the touch of luxury in economic terms. There's another motivating reason to indulge.
Well, it makes you feel good sitting in a car like this. I feel good, don't you?
Mocker is chasing a hat-trick following impressive victories at Newcastle and Gosford in recent weeks, while Gallery Star is out to make amends for an unlucky defeat on this track on December the 2nd. For the Rosehill trifecta, 11, 4 and 9, our Tour de France to beat High Spy and Miss Amazer. Down south they race at Sandown, and for the daily double try Sardinia in the first leg race 7 and Bronze Knight in the second leg race 8. And for the Sandown trifecta, Gary likes Bronze Knight from Stable Gossip and Dowie. Beautiful Broadmeadow is the venue for the gallops in Newcastle this weekend, and in the daily double, if you couple Cloud Chief with Rocket Socks, you won't be too far away, and in the trifecta, 1, 3 and 4, Cloud Chief to win from Comir Allen and Arctic Glace. It's the 40th anniversary meeting of the Newcastle Trotting Club tomorrow night, and 10 races are set down for decision at the new International Paceway. Gary feels that Jersey Trick and Swift Wind will be the first past the post in the legs of the daily double, and Jersey Trick, Remember Roadie and High Sugar should run 1, 2, 3 for the trifecta.